Today we're going to be looking at how to add negative fractions. To show this, we have a couple of examples that we're going to work through together here, so let's get started. For question number 1, we're being asked to add negative 3/6 and 1/4. So as we can see up top here highlighted in yellow, the first thing that we need to do when we're adding negative fractions that have different denominators is we need to find a common denominator. So in order for us to find a common denominator between both 4 and 6, we're going to list a couple multiples for both 4 and 6. So for 4, we have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and now let's list some of the multiples of 6. We have 6, 12, and we don't have to go any further because 12 is a multiple of both 6 and 4. So as we can see for the next step, we're going to rewrite these fractions with our common denominator of 12. And now in order for us to keep these fractions equivalent, we need to make sure that we do the same thing to our numerators up top that we had to do to our denominators in order to rewrite these fractions. So for 6, we had to multiply 6 times 2 in order to get the denominator of 12. So we need to multiply our negative 3 by 2 in order to keep this fraction equivalent. That's going to give us negative 6, giving us negative 6/12. Now we're going to move on to the second fraction. We needed to multiply 4 times 3 in order to get the denominator of 12, so we're going to do the same thing to our numerator up top. And when we multiply 1 times 3, we get 3. Now we're ready to add these numerators because our denominator is not going to change in value when we're adding fractions. It's still going to be in twelfths. Now we're going to add our numerators. And since we have a negative and a positive, the positive that we're adding onto our negative is going to be increasing the value of our negative number. So we're going to be moving closer to 0. So when we add negative 6 plus 3, we're going to end up at negative 3, giving us the fraction of negative 3/12. Now we can simplify this fraction because both negative 3 and 12 are multiples of 3, so we're going to divide both the denominator and the numerator by 3 in order to simplify this negative fraction. For the denominator, when we divide 12 by 3, we get 4, and then for the numerator, when we divide negative 3 by 3, we get negative 1. So when we add negative 3/6 plus 1/4, we get the fraction of negative 1/4. Now moving on to question number 2, where this time we're being asked to add negative 2/5 plus negative 1/3. The first thing that we need to do is we need to find a common denominator. And to do this, we're going to multiply our denominators in order to find a common denominator. When we multiply 5 times 3, we get 15. So down below, we're going to rewrite these fractions with the common denominator of 15. And we do have to keep things equivalent here, so we need to multiply our numerator up top by the same value. So for our first fraction, we had to multiply 5 times 3 in order to get the denominator of 15. So we'll do the same thing to the numerator up top. When we multiply negative 2 times 3, we get negative 6. And then for the second fraction, we had to multiply 3 times 5 in order to get the denominator of 15. So we'll do the same thing to our numerator up top. And when we multiply negative 1 times 5, we get negative 5. So now that we've rewritten these fractions, we're ready to start adding our fractions. So our denominator is not going to change. It's still going to be in 15ths in our answer, but we are ready to add our numerators. And when we add negative 6 plus negative 5, we get negative 11, giving us the fraction of negative 11/15. And now, since there's no common multiple between 11 and 15 other than 1, we're done. We've already written this fraction in its lowest possible form. So when we add negative 2/5 plus negative 1/3, we get the fraction of negative 11/15. So hopefully by now you understand how to add negative fractions. Help make math less complicated by smashing those like and subscribe buttons. As always, enjoy today's math journey.